Okay, so we're going to also talk about the schools. That's what we were mainly there for, this educational exchange thing. We were there to interact with Chinese students. I was teaching in a classroom, and the girls were with other teens, and they would do special activity times. So, why don't you guys talk about what the activity times were like?
We did songs, we did games, we did magic. Yeah, we did.
To give the kids a break, we would fill in the time. They'd give us a sheet and we'd do certain games on certain days. And after that game, and if activity time wasn't over yet, because it was in a certain period of time, we'd have to make up other games from America, like Duck Duck Goose or
Red light.
Red Light, Green Light, something like that.
So yeah, so they would take the kids in the morning. They'd take each class for. There were two different groups that would take students, and we had 4 classrooms in our grouping. And so each class would go to a teen group, and the teen group would do games, songs, activities, science type things, yeah, like STEM activities that were predetermined. And then if they finished their activities and they had extra time, then they would do different games with the kids to keep them occupied. I think the kids really enjoyed Duck Duck Goose and Red Light Green Light, Heads Up 7 Up,
Down by the Banks.
Down by the Banks. Yeah,
people got really angry with Down by the Banks.
Yeah,
we're not allowed to play with the older kids. They get too angry.
Yeah, that's true. We were at an elementary school both weeks. We did have other teacher groups that were at elementary week 1 and then middle school week 2, but we were elementary both weeks. So at our first school in Weihai, we had in our group, we had 3 classes that were grades 1 through 3 and 1 that was 4-5, and they rotated teachers once in the morning and once in the afternoon every day. So I saw all 4 groups of students. We were a little surprised when we got there because we expected that they would be able to speak some English, and we were a bit surprised that most of the students spoke very little English in the 1 through 3 classrooms, which made us have to change our teaching strategy significantly. The teaching plans that we had were for kids that had a higher comprehension of the English language, and so we had to change that. And we had, for the activities, the students often had to have the Chinese translators that were in each class translate the rules and things so the kids would understand what they were supposed to do. The 4-5 class, they did have a much higher comprehension, but they were the ones that couldn't play Down by the Banks because they got to...
Because there was one kid who hurt his hand, and so he was like the judge and would tell who was out, and they got mad at him because he was like, no, this person wasn't out, it was this person. And so
how were the kids in activity time, Jaden?
Interesting. They were very loud and noisy and wanting to pull people aside, talk to them, jazz.
So would you say they're very different than American students in the same kind of environment?
Not the same kind of environment, it's quite different. They say they punish the kids, but I seriously doubt it.
Right, but I mean, if American kids went into an activity room to learn an activity, would you expect American kids of that age to behave pretty much the same as Chinese? The Chinese students did?
Well, sometimes it depends on what they've done. Like, is it early in the morning? Is it late in the afternoon? It depends on the time. It depends on what happens. Because the kids there, they should have a recess. They should be able to get energy out. And here, and in China, they did.
So at the first school in Weihai that we were at, class started at 8:30 in the morning and went till 5 o'clock, and then they had time to get their stuff together and things before school was dismissed. They would have 3 hours in the morning of instruction, and an activity time would be included in there. The teachers would teach one lesson during that morning time. Then we'd have a 2-hour lunch break. During that lunch break, those students were, they would have lunch. They would go to a nap room and take a rest or nap. And then I think those kids at Way High, they got to play outside after that. I think in Way High they had, because they had 2 hours, and I think that they had recess and they did play outside.
They were better though. I mean, other than that class 19, because the teacher wouldn't let them out for their breaks, so they were always too hyper. We had a kid almost jump out a window.
Yeah, we had a few students in one class that were boys that were mischievous, and
No,
they wouldn't
it was
listen.
the whole class because they didn't get any their break time because the teacher said they don't deserve it. It was the teacher's fault.
The kids had too much energy and they would climb on top of tables, and we had one boy that kept trying to jump out the 3rd-story windows, and he just wouldn't listen, and the Chinese assistant that we had a hard time controlling him too. And then one time they were in activity, and I was in there with them because when the teacher's class went to activity, we were there with them most of the time. And 3 of the boys that get into trouble were out of the room, and I went to check on them, and they were in the classroom, and they were throwing things and playing with things they shouldn't have been and making a mess, and they thought it was funny. They were knocking things off desks and breaking things, and their Chinese assistant said she thought that they had told her that they were going to the toilet to go to the bathroom, which obviously wasn't the case. So that was kind of frustrating. And then at the end of camp, we were all expected to have taught some songs and some dances to the kids, and we had to put on a performance at the end with some of our students. We sang If You're Happy and You Know It, Baby Shark,
Hokey pokey.
Hokey Pokey. Yeah, there were a bunch of little song and dance things. One group did a skit called Cecilia. That was fun. But all of the teachers and all of the American students were at one school the first week in Way High. So we were all collaborative and we were all there. The teaching plan changed the first few days. Like every time we came in, things would change. We finally got a rhythm down and things were better. We really kind of connected, I think, with those students at the school more. Do you feel like that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What one?
At Way High.
The second?
No, the first one.
No.
Way High. Way High, I felt like we had more relationship with the school kids as opposed to the other one.
I liked some of the school kids better in the first week, but the second week, my host family and some of the kids were better.
So there were a lot more emotional reactions when we left. It seemed like a lot of the kids didn't realize that we'd be going so far away, and they were really upset. There was a lot of crying and stuff when we left there. But they made us food. They made us special food and took it up to, like, the kids would eat in the cafeteria area, and there was a ramp, and up above that was another, like, eating area. And we would eat up there. We would have our own food. And they thought that all Americans drank Coke or milk. So we got cold Coke at every lunchtime when we were at Way High. Or we got warm milk. Those were our 2 choices to drink. We weren't allowed to drink any water in China. It had to be bottled or boiled water. So the classrooms all had a water cooler that we could get. They had the big jugs that are sealed, and we would drink that. But once we left the classroom and we were in the cafeteria, Coke and milk were our choices.
But then in the second school, so the kids kept complaining because we got Coca-Cola and they did not. So then they took it away and gave us no drinks.
That's true. And we didn't have milk as an option at that school. So that school, we all ate in the same cafeteria with the students, and they, the second day, some of the kids were coming through and getting Coke, and there was a big uproar with the parents. Some parents were mad that their kids had Coke, and other parents were mad that their kids were not allowed to have Coke, that it was specifically set aside for us and not their kids. So day 3, we no longer had Coke, and we didn't have milk, and we didn't have anything to to drink. So, and that school had boiling water that you could get out of the faucet. There was a special faucet where the water was boiled when it came out. So it was hot water. That's what we had to drink there. But they took really good care of us. They made sure we had lots of food to eat at the first school. Like I said, we were all together at that one. We met all the teenagers, all the teachers. We had meetings. It was a good experience. I did enjoy our time. We did notice in Beijing there was a lot of pollution, and in Weihai the skies were much clearer and it was easier to breathe, and we enjoyed that quite a bit. So after our 7 days of teaching in Weihai, we got on a bus that took us to the train that took us to Qingdao, and we went to Qingdao, and we had a couple days with our new host families to kind of get acclimated, and then we went to the new school, and this school was a public school, and we weren't allowed in most of the areas. Like, there's a lot of places we weren't allowed to go. They had the boiling water out of the tap, or out of the special tap, not all taps. And these kids were wilder. There didn't seem to be a lot in the way of discipline. They had a headmaster there, and he would talk to them and give like lectures and stuff, but I didn't see a lot in the way of positive behavior. So
there was a playground out at the second school, but they weren't allowed to play on it. Apparently, the children are too precious to have them play out there. And there was a lot more violence in the second school. There were kids, there was this one kid that dug a pencil in the back of this kid's neck and made two big, deep holes in it. Kids were almost throwing desks at each other. There was a lot of violence.
yeah, they said that their students, they don't want them to get hurt, so they don't get a recess time. So they got an hour and a half for lunch, 45 minutes to eat, 45 minutes to rest. Although the students there didn't really rest, they would sit at their desks, and the teachers would sometimes put on movies. They could color, they could talk to each other, but they were not allowed to really go outside. And in fact, during the activity time, our teens would take them out for like red light, green light, or sharks and minnows or something. And wherever they played outside, the next day would be roped off, so they couldn't go. What do you want to say about that? About activity times at the second school and how that went?
It was pretty fun with the kids. We would play games, and we got closer sometime with some of the kids in activity time because we got to know them and their personality.
What did you think of activity times at Qingdao?
They don't understand American games. They don't understand the rules.
Even once they're explained to them in Chinese, they had a hard time following the rules and listening, and so things would go crazy. The behavior issues were significantly more. We did have kids that got into trouble. We had one kid that locked himself in the bathroom for 45 minutes, and I guess nobody's really sure if it was intentional or accidental. They ended up having to break the door. It took about 45 minutes for them to get him out. But, I mean, there were good kids there. The headmaster housed one of our American students, and he got really, really close to him, and he was crying in front of, which I was pleasantly surprised to see that he wasn't afraid to show his emotion.
No, he was. He was trying to hold it back.
I always pictured Chinese people as these strict disciplinarians, that they were always in line and always following the rules, and that wasn't the case. So it was frustrating as a teacher, but it was good to see also. So yeah, then we ate in the cafeteria with them. Oh, there was a store that was nearby, so each day mostly we would walk over and get snacks or cold drinks at the store, because they did have some drinks in a cooler at that school, especially once our Coke was taken. not that we really even wanted Coke. We just wanted something cold to drink. And if they had had cold water or something cold to drink, then we would have, or even lukewarm. But we really didn't have anything like that. So then after our 7 days there, we went to Beijing for 3 days of touring. We got to go to the Great Wall, which, what did you guys think of the Great Wall?
I thought it was pretty cool, except that I used the bathroom and I couldn't really look at it very much until I was done going to the bathroom.
So Jojo ended up running, when we got up to the top of the Great Wall, running quite a ways to find the nearest restroom. But that was a theme anyway, of Jojo running for the restroom and trying to find somewhere.
The Great Wall is actually as long as going from Chicago to China, Beijing, and back.
Just about, yeah. It's almost as long as the entire wall. You can't walk the entire wall because it's broken in a lot of places. The places that they have for tourists are restored and are made to be safe. I thought it was really surreal just to be there on this Great Wall in China. I didn't really ever expect to be in. You could to go up, you could walk up 45 flights of stairs, they said, or you could take a ski lift type thing. So we chose to take the ski lift, and you kind of stood there and they shoved you down into the chair and pulled this thing over your head. The thing didn't lock in, so you had to kind of lock it in with your own hands and feet. I hated it because I don't like heights, and it went really high, and it was terrible, but I survived.
And then on the way down, you gotta go on this metal slide that you gotta have
Toboggan.
Shush. They had this little joystick in the middle that you gotta move back and forth to change your speed.
So yeah, on the way down, you could either take that, which Jojo just said was the toboggan, and Jaden told it was really big. It snaked around down the mountain. It was really cool. The joystick, Jaden said, adjusted. You could stop, or you could go faster or slower with it. So that was pretty cool. We didn't get a lot of time to walk on the wall. I felt like we didn't, by the time we waited in line to go on the ski lift, or if you had walked up, by the time you walked up, we had a limited amount of time. I wish we'd have had longer. There was an incident with Jaden on the wall.
No.
Yes.
No.
Where
No.
she had issues with the storekeeper. But yeah, we were supposed to be down at 1:20, and we waited in line for the toboggan slide, and it took longer, and we didn't get down till almost 2 o'clock. And we were supposed to have met, but probably a third of our group wasn't there either. So we shopped, and we had a few kids that got trapped in a jade store because the shopkeepers were determined that they were going to buy the jade, and they just kept trying to redirect them and offer them deals, and eventually we went looking for them and had to escort them out. But yeah, the other group came down like almost an hour later, and we were really late for everything that day. But I think it's because we just didn't have enough time to spend at the Great Wall, and we weren't really willing to not see stuff to leave. They took us during the touring, we had paid, and they took us to meals. Those meals, so the food in general in China, we didn't feel like was anything like Chinese food here. I don't even know why we call the food that we have here Chinese food. At least where we were in China, that's not what they ate, ever. We never had any kind of chow mein noodles. Well, Jojo and I never had any kind of chow mein type noodles. We had something similar to a fried rice a couple of times, and we had a lot of white rice. Sticky white rice was a staple. We never had anything breaded until the time in Beijing, and that's because they cater to tourists, American tourists especially. But yeah, we didn't, it was very, very different. A lot of vinegar stuff. What did you think of the food?
It was pretty good, but I feel like the American food that they sell there, like Burger King they had there, McDonald's, it wasn't as good as America's.
Yeah.
Put a lot of different things.
And because we were in 2 coastal cities, there was a lot of fish. We ate a lot of fish. And JoJo and I were pretty tired of fish by the time we were near the end of our weeks. Did you eat a lot of seafood? Yeah. Did you like it?
Oh, they had this sea cucumber thing. It was all black and spiky. And they put it in lettuce. And then they just eat it like that. We didn't try it because it didn't look good.
We didn't. We did eat clams for the first time, little clam things. That seemed to be almost like French fries to them. They would have them at most meals when we went with JoJo and I. And there was a huge bowl of them, and they were marinated in something, and they were pretty good. But even their potatoes, their cucumbers and things would always be marinated in a vinegar. And we asked for soy sauce once, and they didn't seem to know what that was. And we never did find soy sauce, so that's not something that they apparently have in China, for the most part, at least the areas that we were in. But then when we toured, we still didn't have soy sauce, but we did have sometimes noodles. There was a sweet and sour pork or chicken type dish at one of my host families. I tried a silkworm chrysalis. It was not good. It had a creamy, gross consistency, but we also did something called hot pot. I think pretty much everybody that went at some point did a hot pot, and that's a restaurant where there's a big pot of some kind of liquids in the middle, and you order whatever you want, meats, vegetables, and then you drop them in the pot that has the flavor you want. So our pot had a spicy vegetable one, a tomato-based one, and a water, just a plain water. And you could put them in wherever and cook them and then eat them. You did a hot pot too? And what were your liquids?
We had spicy and water.
Spicy and water were her 2 choices. And you didn't like that?
No, I thought it was pretty good. I didn't try the spice.
Okay.
JoJo had a new favorite food while we were in China.
Figs!
I don't think the figs in China are like the figs in America, but I'm not really sure. They were green on the outside and a dark pink, almost red inside with black seeds. And she ate them and ate them and ate them. So she's kind of disappointed so far we haven't been able to find them in America. So if you're watching this and you know where we can find those figs, please let us know, because she would be very grateful. So after the Great Wall, we had lunch, and after lunch, we went to the Olympic Stadium from the Beijing Olympics. And what did you guys think of the Olympic Stadium?
It was pretty cool.
We didn't get to see much. They didn't give us enough.
The bird's nest?
Yeah, I think because we were so late leaving the Great Wall that they cut our time short. She literally dropped us off and said, "You guys have 20 minutes, go take a couple pictures, and then meet me back out here." So we didn't get a lot of time. And then we did a little shopping in that area. And then it was time to go to dinner. And I think that that's a result of the day, the time we took during the day that kind of ate up that time. But it was cool to see. And it looks like the Olympics are going back there in 2022 or 2026. I don't remember. But anyways, that was the first day. The second day, we went to Tiananmen Square and the Forbidden City. They were very large, open areas. It was super hot the whole time we were in China. My backpack, I had a purple backpack, and when we were at the Forbidden City, it started bleeding through because I was so sweaty, and it was hot, and there was no shade anywhere for there. What did you think of that area? Tiananmen Square and Forbidden City?
It was pretty nice, but it was a lot of the same things in the same place. You go and it'd look really
Sit up.
red and white. The roofs are red and it's white. And then you'd walk into another one and it'd be the same thing. So it was hard to tell where we were because we went to a store and we didn't know how to find our way back because we followed it, but we didn't go over enough. And so we had to figure it out.
Yeah, each area looked the same as you went through.
They said it went an entrance, then a space, and then an entrance, and then a space, and then where they stayed, and then an entrance and a space, and it just did that. It was just 2 entrances, and then where you lived, and then 2 entrances in the back. So it wasn't that, but it was really long. It was really high. I didn't really like it. It was
Yeah, I think that was my least favorite area, just because it was so dry and so hot. And it didn't seem to have a lot of things to really see. The buildings were almost the same. I guess in some of the breezeways there were things to see, but there were so many people packed into them you couldn't even move around. You were lucky to be able to walk through. So we didn't have enough time really there, but we made it through there. Then we went to lunch. And the food every time on the days we toured, the foods were pretty much the same. Like we had basically the same foods each time, but at a different restaurant. And always Coke, sometimes Sprite, but always Coke. I guess they really do think that we just drink Coke. And then we went to the Summer Palace after we had lunch, and the Summer Palace I really enjoyed. There was so much art and so much beauty there, but again, we didn't have very much time there. So I felt like there's more that we could have seen there, and we weren't able to. I then understood why there was a Summer Palace, because it was so much cooler, and there was shade, and it was beautiful, and there was this huge lake right there, and there were boats that went across the lake. And what did you guys think of the Summer Palace?
We didn't have enough time. Oh, my friends wanted to look in the shop to find something for their parents, and then we tried to come back out, and by the time we got back, they said, sorry, time's up, you can't go actually into the Summer Palace, so we didn't actually get to see it.
Oh, that's you too? Oh, okay. So yeah, we split up, and the teens were kind of grouped. They went in their own little people groups, and I didn't realize they didn't get to see anything, but I walked around with one of the other teachers, and we missed the cutoff for going into the Heaven's Temple or something like that, Temple of Heaven. It closed at 5, and we got over there a little bit after 5, so we didn't get to go there.